in on the studio hotline. When I answered it, I was very surprised to hear on the other end of the call Sox broadcaster Hawk Harrelson, and he wasn't happy about the conversation taking place between Terry and Brian the first 2 hours of the show, and he wanted to call in and have a discussion with Terry and Brian about their comments concerning the Sox broadcast the night before. So here it is. Hawk Harrelson calls in on his own and has a conversation with Terry Boers and Brian Hanley. You're listening to the best of Boers and Bernstein on WSCR, The Score.
We are going to pull an audible at 12:05. Chicago Sports Radio 670, The Score. Terry Boers, Brian Hanley. And we've been talking for the last hour or so about Hawk Harrelson and DJ from last night's game. And lo and behold, Hawk Harrelson is on the phone right now. Hello, Hawk.
Hello, guys. I'm just coming home from hitting a few golf balls out at Bolingbrook, and I've been listening. Actually, had some laughs about this because this illustrates exactly what I was talking about last night.
Okay. How so?
Well, I'll tell you why. Let's just take it individually, because you got to take it individually. First of all, what I said had nothing to do with fans, or was nothing implicated to fans. What I was talking about were guys in the media, such as Boers and Bernstein and Mariotti, who know absolutely nothing about baseball, getting up there trying to tell people about the game, and then ripping people apart because that's their job as far as trying to create some story. Now, to me, Brian Hanley is one of the most solid sports guys in this town, especially about baseball. I don't know about basketball, football, because I don't hear you guys do those. But, no, what I was talking about last night is, as long as I've been in this game of not knowing the game of baseball as much as it's just a beautiful thing, and nobody really understands the game of baseball. Everybody has their own thoughts and ideas, and that does not make them wrong. That's why it's such a beautiful game, because of the fact you can second guess. But then you get other guys, and certainly not the fans. I know the emails that I get, which I get a ton of them from fans. These people are so knowledgeable, it's just beautiful. And I call a lot of them, as a matter of fact. They to thank them for the emails. They know the game, they understand. We've got some more sophisticated fans right now than we've ever had in the game of baseball. That's what television has done in the inundation of sports in baseball. But you get certain guys out there who get up there and try to tell our fans and other people about what's going on, and they got no clue. And that's what I was talking about last night, not the fans.
Well, then you better specify when you start saying that, because you have to say it's the media then. And the other thing I would say is that, so guys who covered sports for 20 years and have been around athletes, that travel with athletes, been around them for 20 years, fans who've never done any of that are still, their opinion would be more qualified than a lot of sports writers. That's what you're saying.
There's no doubt about it. What do you think all
the fans, okay.
Do you think, Terry, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think all sports writers are qualified to write on the sport that they're covering?
No.
You got to be crazy.
Nope, I don't think so.
Are you damn right you're not?
But I also think that a vast majority of them have a pretty good understanding of what it takes to write a story, what it takes to deal with athletes, what it takes to understand the game, what it takes to deal with these guys on a day-to-day basis.
In this town who have forgotten more baseball than you will ever know.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What about the thought process of a Major League Baseball player would a common guy not understand? What is the complicated thought process of a baseball player that an ordinary Joe wouldn't understand?
Who brought the thought process that you guys have been talking about?
DJ.
That's DJ.
You don't agree with that?
Yeah, I believe in the thought process, but I'll tell you one thing. The thought process that you've been hammering on and harping on it just goes to show your ignorance. I mean, it really does. You know, Bernstein thinks he invented the game, and you, unless there's a sexual connotation to it, don't even talk about it very much.
Well, Hawk, a couple weeks ago,
talk about it all morning.
Hawk, this Friday, a couple weeks ago, I was out covering the game, and I guess you went off on the media, and you didn't specify who you were talking about. I have an idea who you were talking about. And your director panned the press box, and I got 3 calls saying that Tony Giannetti, Bill Joust, and I were prominently displayed on television for a few seconds, and the average guy out there is looking at them, and hey, he must be talking about us.
No, actually, let me tell you, on the shows that I have been that I have singled out people, I've also talked about the good ones. I've talked about North and Dougie, who are outstanding. I've talked about McNeil and those guys on the other side of the dial. They're good. You've got some real solid people here. You got Brian Hanley, who is just as solid as they come in this town. about baseball. Again, I'm only limiting my.
But are these Hawk? Do you think these people are solid because they never criticize the White Sox, or how does that make them solid? How does that make them solid? Help me with it.
The White Sox? You know, Brian doesn't criticize the White Sox.
I don't know.
Sure he does. I'm
Okay.
criticize it.
All right. What in particular about what I've said shows you that I have no knowledge at all of baseball? What is it in particular?
Well, because I tell you the truth, I've known you so long, Terry.
Yeah, we've known each other since you were general manager, Hawk. That's correct.
I knew you when you were a writer. You didn't know what the hell you were talking about then, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about now. You try to make a spoof or a satire of everything.
Well, you know what? When you guys sit up there last night and talk that nonsense and then call and say, well, I wasn't really talking about the fans. If you're talking about the media, you've been doing it a long time, too. You say it's the media then. Don't play the games and the, the people who've been watching it 40 years.
But I've done it before, and I will do it again.
Okay.
If there are guys like you and Bernstein and Mariotti who are, been here a while, talking and espousing baseball, and you don't know a damn thing about it. Nothing.
Well, you're certainly entitled. And let me tell you something. But the guy, as I point out,
I think great in football. You might be great in basketball.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I'm great in any of them. But I have a long background in observing people and athletes and broadcasters and so forth. And what you did last night is nonsense. You're broadcasting for a team that's scrambling to get people to come out and watch the product. And if you can differentiate now and tell the people, sure you are. Sure you are. No, that's what I...
We drew 1,930,000 last year. We got some of the greatest fans in the world. We had an April and a May last year that was the worst that Roger Boston said he has ever encountered. We drew almost 2 million people last year.
Okay.
And we had a hell of a ball club. Kenny Williams put a hell of a ball club on that field. And the fans responded. They responded. I was so proud of them last year. They drew almost 2 million under those circumstances. And we almost finished third in our own division.
Okay, but why is the payroll then where it is? There has to be some loss here, right? I mean, something here.
I don't sign the checks.
Well, but no, you don't. I know you don't sign the checks, but you're telling me if it's painting a rosy picture of everything is so great, then the payroll should be $90 million. Then you should have a lot of players. You shouldn't be scrimping dollars. You're in the third market in the country.
You think it's easy just to put a pen down to a check and write out a check for $90 or $100 million?
Well, no, I don't think it's easy. I wish I could do it. But I'm just saying that if everything was this rosy, well, Hawk, if everything was this rosy, I think if anybody takes a hard look at the White Sox, which we do on this station, you resent it. And then you go off on this tangent about they don't know anything about baseball, but fans don't. You know what? I will put my experience about being around all this for a damn long time, and I very rarely do this. But with you, I'll make an exception and do it. And to sit here and say I don't know anything about it is just preposterous. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense because we don't share the same views on what you consider, the thought process of baseball. I don't think any of these games are that difficult. You may sit there and see plays you haven't seen before. I agree with that. Every time you watch a baseball game, you might see something you've never seen before. I agree with that. But what have you seen that you didn't think of, or that this guy's going through this complicated thought process? These are baseball players. They're not Jonas effing Salk. I mean, these are baseball players. And many of whom I dealt with who couldn't schedule an airplane reservation. And your partner sitting there telling me we can't go through their thought process unless they've had a major league uniform on. Oh, my God, let's see.
Anybody who does not agree with you is a moron. And
well, a lot of them are.
Your favorite things.
No, it's not moron, Hawk. It's dope. I don't think they're morons. No, and I'm not calling you that. I'm not going to go that because I think your knowledge is okay. I'm just saying there was no percentage in what you did last night. None. In my world, if that's wrong, then I still don't know anything. That's fine.
I meant every word I said, and it has nothing to do with the fans. It has to do with people like a Boers and a Bernstein and a Mariotti.
Well, but you said last night, you said, Hawk, you said people who said they've been watching the game 40 years, watching Cubs and Sox 40 years, and think they know I know a little something about the game, don't know a damn thing.
Yeah, a Boers and a Bernstein and
well, say it then.
Watching these games, they don't know a damn thing. It has nothing to do with fans.
Well, okay, but I mean, if I'm a fan out there, I'm thinking he might be talking about me, the guy who's been sitting in the stands for 30 or 40 years.
Well, and if that's the case, then I was in an era that I did not explain it better.
Okay.
There's no question about that.
Fair enough.
But we have got some of the greatest. Look, I remember when Bill Gleason wrote a story back in the early '80s, said that no team in Chicago, baseball team, would ever draw 2 million. And we have had, 2 million drawn by both clubs on several occasions and 3 million drawn by one again. We have got some of the greatest sports fans. Name me a better sports town than Chicago. Name me one that's better. There might be somebody that's good, I don't know. But we have got the greatest fans in sports in this city. We've got a two-team city in baseball. They both are doing well. They both draw well. And it's going to continue that way. I know, at least in my field, that both teams are going to be doing well for a while. Right now, we've got a hell of a manager in Ozzie. We've got a hell of a general manager in Kenny Williams. And this team, in my opinion, is on the verge of having a sustained period of time where they're going to be playing the kind of baseball that we have been told was going to be played here for the last 4 or 5 years, and was not.
I love Kenny Williams. I love the fact he plays for each season. He doesn't care about trading prospects. He wants to win each year. That's what you want to do, and as a fan, that's what you appreciate.
Yeah, but getting back to this other issue, though, Brian, the thing is again, this is just something with me that talking about certain individuals in this town, in the media, who get up and the only thing they do is try to convince the viewer or the listener that they invented the game of baseball.
That's
and they
not
don't know
true,
anything
Hawk.
about it.
That's not fair criticism. It's not true. I mean, I think if you're a viewer and criticize, look, first of all,
Oh, man.
the guy you're referring to, Dan Bernstein, is a Sox fan. He's a huge Sox fan. He grew up loving his Chicago White Sox. Well, it doesn't matter. The fact is, he's a Sox fan. He loves the White Sox. So, I mean, I think that anytime anybody criticizes your product in any way, you take vast offense at it. You take great offense at anything that's said. And this year, nothing's been said about the White Sox. Nothing's been said about the White Sox this year. As a matter of fact, of the few people in this town who thought they were going to win the division, I would be one of them. I mean, I think I look at everything very even-handed. If you're going to paint me as a guy who knows nothing, that's fine. You know, I'm pretty happy in my life not knowing anything. I've done okay for a guy who knows nothing. That's okay. I have no problem with that. But when you tell me all these other people know something that I don't know or know the game better than I do, that's just nonsense.
The Score is Chicago's sports radio baseball station. When you
Many